One of the real advantages of electric cooperatives membership is having a voice in our state's energy future.
Not a week goes by without important energy issues making headlines. These are issues that need to be discussed. And you should know that as policies are being developed, the cooperatives are looking out for our members, advocating what's best for you.
We are your friends and neighbors.
We are your local electric company.
The electric cooperatives.
We are Arkansas.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to Capitol View. I'm David Goins alongside Roby Brock. We're joined now by our political long table. We have Democratic strategist Jessica DeLoach, and from Tim Griffin's reelection campaign for next year, David Ray, of course, former Republican spokesperson as well. Thank you all very much for being on Capitol View this morning.
Thanks for having us.
All right, let's go first question here. The Republicans say that Democrats will not compromise. The Democrats say that that funding should be a clean resolution. There shouldn't be any strings attached to all of this. Who's right, who's wrong in this great debate? David, I'll come to you first.
Well, first of all, there's plenty of blame to go around in Washington. There's plenty for everyone to share in. But I'll say that Republicans are against a shutdown. We've worked very hard to avert a shutdown in the first place. And that's evidenced by the fact that the House of Representatives passed not one, not two, but 3 continuing resolutions to send to the Senate. And the Senate did nothing with them. In fact, Harry Reid and the Democrat Senate took the day off on Sunday. They didn't even convene on Monday until 2 p.m. when we were just mere hours away from a shutdown. So since then, you've seen the Republicans passing appropriation bill after appropriation bill to get more immediate concerns of the government up and running, and Democrats, mainly the President and Senator Reid, refuse to come to the table, refuse to talk, refuse to even negotiate at all.
Jessica, I somehow feel like you're going to have a contrarian position there.
That is true. Well, okay, you bring up compromise. Well, tell me again what it is that we need to compromise about, because we all know that the GOP shut down the government over Obamacare to prevent it from moving forward. And, you know, you can speculate as to why they would have gone about doing so. I have my reasons. I won't get into that here. But Democrats have compromised. We've compromised greatly, actually. The Senate Democrats had pushed for the House to work together to figure out the budget, and nothing gave. And we all know that the Republican Party waited for this moment. They waited for this opportunity to shut down the government, or even to default on our debt, just to get down to the wire to say, we don't want Obamacare, we're not compromising, this is it. And Harry Reid, he has come forth and he has said, look, there will be a conversation as soon as this government's back up and running, and as soon as we get past this debt ceiling issue, then we can talk. And I do believe that there is a conversation to be had, and that something very positive can come out of it, but it doesn't need to be a compromise where Democrats are basically giving into things where you're going to end up losing the best part of Obamacare for things that undermine the implementation of Obamacare.
Okay, I think we know where we are, generally speaking. That is, in its broadest terms, the government not doing a whole lot right now in D.C. Where do you see this going? Do you see this bleeding straight into this debt ceiling talk that's basically a mid-October situation, or do you think they can get this part of it done before mid-October, Dave?
Look, I think we could reach an agreement to open the government back up, to fully fund the government.
Including the health care law?
Well, as soon as the Democrat Senate will come to the table and negotiate. And the President plays a role in this. Look, we've got President Obama is just fine negotiating the removal of chemical weapons from Syria through Russian President Vladimir Putin, who probably helped get them there in the first place, but he won't pick up the phone to call Speaker Boehner.
Why would a president negotiate on his signature domestic policy, though? I mean, does that seem realistic?
Well, let's consider the facts. Since the Congress passed Obamacare in 2009, the president has granted over 1,200 waivers, mostly to his political allies and labor unions. Mm-hmm. They have scrapped entire portions of the law, such as the CLASS Act, the Community Living Assistance Program, that was supposed to make it deficit neutral. They just completely scrapped that because they realized it wasn't workable, and the president himself unilaterally, without the consent of Congress, delayed for an entire year the employer mandate, basically half of the health care law. So what we're saying are there are some easy, common sense changes that we can make to the health care law that are supported by a vast majority of Americans and the general public, and we can make those very simply if the other side will just come to the table. You can't negotiate with yourself.
But that's worth keeping the government shut down.
Well, at this point, the implementation of Obamacare is causing more and more negative impacts every day. We see it. Talk to the 20,000 Home Depot employees who have seen spousal health coverage dropped as a result of Obamacare. Look at the rollout and all of the problems that have happened just in the last couple of days. We can't have this negotiation with ourselves. The Senate can't just keep saying, no, we're not going to talk to you, we're not going to talk to you, we're not going to talk to anybody. The American people want us to come together, they want us to negotiate, and they want us to work out an agreement.
Jessica, the Democratic Senator Mark Pryor has even said there are things that need to be fixed in this health care law. There are things that need to be improved. So why not use this as the opportunity now to negotiate and make some of those changes, such as the medical device tax or some of the other limitations that have been brought forward?
Sure. Now, there is a way to do that, and I agree with you that this is a great time to try to fix some things, but not all things. This is brand new. There are going to be kinks in this system, but it's a good system, and you can look at all of the good that it's doing for our country. Now, I mean, let's think about this. In Arkansas, you have over 250,000 people that are going to benefit from this new system. And the Republicans,
if the website will start working.
And you know what? I mean, I'll take a crashing website. It's okay. That can all be worked out, and especially if it's driven by traffic, even better. Fine, that's a great problem to have. But what I'm saying is the Republicans are missing out on an excellent opportunity to be able to say, okay, let's move forward. Let's roll with this, and then let's come together to find solutions to make it better.
But what I hear David saying is that they're willing to negotiate. They want to negotiate on some of these pieces and parts of Obamacare is what they're saying.
Well, I mean, you can cherry pick the pieces that you want to fix, but ultimately that's not what they're doing. What they're wanting to do is to take away the parts that make Obamacare functional, and that is just not going to happen. That's a non-negotiable.
David, 30 seconds.
But Roby, look at the medical device tax that you just mentioned. Senator Pryor says he supports the elimination of that device tax. When it came up for a test vote in the Senate, 79 out of 100 U.S. senators, including 33 Democrats, voted to eliminate it. Why can't we have a discussion about that? Why can't we have a negotiation?
We got to take a quick commercial break here. We're going to come back and have some more discussion. Our political roundtable, long table, continues after this word from our sponsors. I'm Roby Brock alongside David Goins. You have the Capitol View on Sunday morning on KARK.
Farm Bureau helps protect its members in more ways than you might think. They've always been the voice of agriculture in Arkansas, working on behalf of folks like me when nobody else would. And Farm Bureau stands for the values that Arkansas families care about. They've protected my right to farm and make a living, which helps everybody who likes food on the table. You know what they say, Arkansas counts on agriculture, and agriculture counts on Farm Bureau.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. I'm Roby Brock alongside David Goins. We're joined once again by our political long table. We have David Ray, campaign manager for Congressman Tim Griffin, former Republican Party of Arkansas Communications Director, Jessica DeLoach, Democratic political strategist.
Yeah, guys, we were kind of jumping in, or let's just kind of re-jump in on this situation in Washington. I was kind of asking a question earlier of, well, where do we go next? And David kind of told me what you think should happen. What do you think actually is going to happen? I mean, how do you think this is going to be resolved? Does this particular part of the battle get settled before mid-October, when things of a much more dire nature come about, about the nation not being able to keep up with its, financial obligations, or does it get settled before then?
Well, I'm certainly hopeful that we find a resolution to this before then. I think everyone can agree that we want the government to be up and running. The shutdown is unnecessary. It's bad policy. It's bad politics. But when you look at some of the things that are coming out of the White House, that are coming out of the office of Senate Majority Leader Reid, it's kind of hard to be that optimistic, because just this week in the Wall Street Journal, an Obama administration official was quoted as saying, "We don't really care how long this lasts because we're winning." Well, the problem is this is not a game. The American people don't think it's a game. They want people to come together, to seek resolution, to compromise, and let's work an agreement out.
I would say, go ahead, Jessica.
Sure. No, I mean, I think once we start getting into quotes about who has said what about things being won, that's a really treacherous territory to get into because both parties are very guilty of that. What I see happening is that, you know, we're probably going to get down to the wire about defaulting on our debt. I'm a glass half full kind of person. What I would like to see is a solution where we get our government up and running, we raise our debt ceiling, and we move forward. And we work together to make changes where they need to be made within Obamacare and keep our country moving forward. Because every day that our government shut down, we suffer for it. We're raking up debt just from having our government shut down. We have people who are at home. They can't even work right now. And that's unacceptable because this shutdown is unnecessary. Congress, the House, has an option to end what they've started right now. And all they have to do is pass this continuing resolution, get this government up and running again, and move forward. But they're not going to. Speaker Boehner could introduce it, and the votes are there to take care of it now. And they're not doing it. Why?
The point I was going to make, too, was that everybody, I think both sides have been guilty of overheated rhetoric and all this. You could point to things that Nancy Pelosi has said. You could point to things Harry Reid has said. Your boss, Congressman Griffin, actually found himself quite a bit in the crossfire this past week as well. Let's move to the U.S. Senate race, Pryor versus Cotton. This is clearly played out. Tom Cotton's been on TV a lot. Tom Cotton's got a strong position with the House majority at this point on this. Senator Pryor has played his cards very much with the Democratic majority. How do you see this playing out in the U.S. Senate race? Does somebody gain some advantage from this debate this past week? Jessica?
Okay, great. You know, what I think is what's happening right now, it only makes Mark Pryor's base stronger. It makes Democrats want to come out and support him because they know in their hearts that he is not the elected official who helped get us here. He's not, but Tom Cotton most certainly is.
Well, this plays to Tom Cotton's base too, does it not, David?
Well, I would say what it exposed, this whole debate exposes how completely 100% loyal Mark Pryor is to Obamacare, that he is unwilling to nudge even 1 inch. And when Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid says, ask Mark Pryor to jump, Mark says, how high? You know, if he really supports the repeal of this medical device tax like he says he does, then let's come to the table and talk about it. You know, if he doesn't want to give the average Joe the same exemption from Obamacare that President Obama gave to big business and big labor, then he needs to explain why.
Jessica, I'll give you a chance for rebuttal there. So.
Sure, of course. That's interesting. I mean, again, we're talking about one piece of Obamacare and then a party that has hijacked the government. I mean, you know, what's more important, getting your government back up and running and respecting the law of the land, or having these tantrums that shut down the government? It's really silly. And there's really no nice way to talk about it the longer this goes on. Mark Pryor is dedicated to what's best for Arkansans. Tom Cotton is not, and he's proven that. With every move he's made so far, he's proven it. And so why elect him? Why elect him to the Senate? Does he deserve that? And Arkansans are faced with that question, and they need to answer it.
Yeah, suffice to say there'll be plenty of political ads on both sides as they continue to roll out. But I mean, just real quickly, Dave, one more time. You talk about this medical device tax. I mean, you think it'd be that simple if negotiate on a medical device tax and all of a sudden the shutdown's over? I mean, is that plausible?
Well, we don't know because the Democrats in the Senate won't come to the table and talk. Now, look, the House Republicans have passed several appropriation bills over the last couple of days to lessen the negative consequences of a shutdown. We've passed legislation to pay our veterans, to fund our National Guardsmen and our reservists, the NIH and cancer research for children. All of these things have been funded. We've opened national parks while the president is trying to deny World War II veterans access to their own memorial. And so we're passing appropriations bills. The Senate is refusing to even consider them.
This is the third or fourth round for the Republicans on this. They started with defunding Obamacare. They started next with delaying Obamacare. Then they went to this piecemeal approach right here. I mean, it seems like they're just throwing spaghetti to see what hits the wall from my perspective.
Well, we're not throwing spaghetti. Look at the three things that Republicans are asking the Senate to consider. One is a delay of the individual mandate, which the president has already delayed the employer mandate. Why shouldn't we give the same exemption to average Joes that the president has given to big business and big labor.
Guys, I'd love to continue to keep talking, but I think we're just about out of time. Suffice to say, the healthcare law may not be popular with a plurality of Americans, but the shutdown is even more unpopular by a greater plurality of Americans. David Ray, Jessica DeLoach, thank you very much for joining us this morning. When we come back, a very special tribute to a cherished memory for many Arkansans, 50 years after John F. Kennedy made one of his last ever public appearances right here in the natural state. I'm David Goins alongside Ruby Brock. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning on KARK.
The Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas. The State Chamber AIA is the leading voice for business at the state capitol and serves as the primary business advocate on all issues affecting Arkansas employers. Our mission is to promote a pro-business, free enterprise agenda and prevent anti-business legislation, regulations, and rules. Now more than ever, business matters. Learn more at arkansasstatechamber.com.
And welcome back. You are now into the Capitol View app extra on your various smartphone, depending on what device you have. Joined by David Ray and Jessica DeLoach again. And just before we went off the air, I made the point that everyone's seen, obviously, in the polling, is that there's still a majority of Americans who are uncomfortable with the Affordable Care Act. There's a far greater majority of Americans who don't like the shutdown. So I guess the political collateral damage is going to be falling out over the next year or so. We'll see where that goes. From your estimation, how long do you, I hate to think how long can you think this can go, but I mean, is there a sense of, at least as where we stand now, there doesn't seem to be, there was a rush of activity late last weekend, and then this kind of thawing over the week, and then leading into the weekend, it doesn't really seem like anything's going on.
Yeah, again, going back to how long you think this will go, I do think that we are inching closer to this place where both sides are truly wanting to bring all of this to a close and move forward. It's just a matter of how we're going to achieve that. And October 17th will be upon us very soon, so you've got less than 2 weeks to get this right. We've got to move forward. We've got to move forward. But it's not a no matter what it takes situation in a lot of ways, because you can't derail the law of the land. It is what it is. Give it a chance. Give it a chance.
Kind of a loaded question. I mean, obviously you work for Congressman Griffin in his re-election campaign. Doesn't have a District 2 challenger yet. Do you think this brings one out, Jessica or Dave?
Absolutely. David, go ahead.
What do you think?
Well,
it's possible.
Look, Congressman Griffin is doing everything he can right now to bring this resolution to a close. He's sponsored legislation to make sure that workers that have been furloughed receive compensation for the time they were not able to work, because these people didn't choose a government shutdown and they shouldn't have to suffer financially because of it. He's doing his job representing his constituents, whether it's on any number of issues. So, we feel good about the things that he has done to represent his district. We feel like he's right in line with them. And again, as you mentioned, the majority of Americans do not approve of Obamacare. The majority of Americans do not approve of a shutdown. He's working to make sure that if we can repeal Obamacare, if we can't repeal it, we need to fix it, change things about it, get the worst, most damaging aspects out of the way, and at the same time, take part in negotiations that will result in compromise and a solution that we can agree on.
I want to ask a question to both of you. What you think is a fair deal to end this government shutdown? What is a fair deal? As we mentioned, the Democrats have stayed very resolute in what they are wanting with a clean resolution. The Republicans have offered multiple alternatives here. So to both of you, what is a fair deal to end this impasse?
Sure. Go ahead.
I think, the Republicans have passed 3 continuing resolutions.
But what do they want?
That contain different things that we want to negotiate on. One is a delay of the individual mandate, which the president's already granted a delay of
the employer mandate. Right.
The second is the medical device tax, which we've talked about, and 79 out of 100 U.S. senators oppose. And the third is getting rid of the special Obamacare subsidy that members of Congress and their staff get. And
is that a special exemption, or are they just getting the exemption that everybody else is getting?
Look, when Obamacare was passed, it was passed under the auspices that, under the Grassley Amendment, that the members of Congress were going to live under the same law that they were going to apply to average everyday Americans. And once you introduce that special treatment in there for them and their staff, then that's no longer the case. And so there's three things that we've laid out that we want to negotiate on. If they just refuse to negotiate on anything, it's going to be really hard to find some agreement.
Jessica?
Okay. Number one, going back to the special treatment of these individuals, that is not the case. That's actually not true. John Boehner knows that's not true because he's actually going out of his way right now to bring some clarity to that. It's a bad talking point because it's just false. So you have that, and then going to the individual mandate. Why would we delay that? Because to delay that would be to delay Obamacare, and that is just a non-negotiable. Now, as far as everything else goes,
Why
sure,
did he
maybe
delay
we
the
can talk
employer
about it.
mandate?
It's two very different things, and I know that they're two very different things. I mean, why in the world would you delay the individual mandate when you know that in order for the system to sustain itself, you have to have people engaging in it? You have to.
Those are the two pillars of the law, and the president, on his own, unilaterally decided to delay the employer mandate. Why? Because it was damaging to businesses. They were laying off employees. They're cutting people's hours. Obamacare is turning this country into part-time America, and we're reaching the point where, unless you have some type of really good specialty, if you're coming out of high school, out of college, you're going to have to find 2 part-time jobs and piece them together and call it a career.
That's called TV right there, buddy. That's called TV, isn't it?
Sometimes. Hey, and next time you guys are on, you guys got to talk to each other while we're actually on TV, not just on the app here. So we definitely appreciate that. You guys did a good job sticking around. Appreciate y'all hanging out with the App Extra. That is it for this Sunday edition, October 6th, of the KRK Capitol View App Extra. Be sure to tune in every Sunday morning at 8:30. And of course, we'll be back with another App Extra next week. See you then.